Rachel here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 234, and we're asking, what should you do if your writing goals change? Now, before we start, if you enjoy the show, please consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free as we have plenty of freebies for all of you. And if you're feeling generous, you can become a Merry Writer for $2 a month. You'll help keep the show going and also have access to bonus episodes and exclusive shop items. But of course, if that's not your style, but you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already. So I wanted to talk about writing goals and how they can change because it happened to me when I lost my job, thanks to AI, but I won't get into details about that. Regardless, I created my goals when I was 10 years old, and now it's 20 years later, and I have changed and I have grown, and of course, so has my writing. And I had realized my purpose for writing changed, but I still continued to strive for the same goals 10-year-old me created. And this ended up resulting in my novels and myself becoming like stalemate. Now, as writers, we're always learning and growing and improving our craft. And your reason for doing these things should also grow, even if you don't always see it, especially if you don't see it right away. So, what exactly should you do if these writing goals change? I think the first thing you should do is figure out your purpose for writing. Do you want to be a full-time author? Do you want to write and publish for a passive income? Or maybe you're doing it as a hobby and you're unsure if you'll publish your work or not. Are you writing stories you want to tell, or are you writing to market and going along with the current trends? And depending on your purpose and why you write, your steps to get there will be vastly different.
You could obviously have a mix of those. You can be writing to market and also wanting to write your memoirs. You can be one of these people where it's like, it's on your bucket list. You just want to write a novel and you can tick it off and never write again. So you're going to write, publish, but you don't want to be a full-time writer. There's a, you can have a bit of a mix and match of your purposes. It doesn't have to be like one specific thing. I assume most people would realize that, but I just felt like I had to say it just in case.
No, that's a good point because I didn't think about that. But you're right. You're absolutely right. You can have a mix and match of what your purpose is. I mean, when I was 10 years old, my main purpose for writing was I wanted to be a full-time author. I wanted that to be my career and nothing else. And now that is not at all what I want. And I still kind of go back and forth between like wanting to publish my novels and, make a decent passive income from it, or just like writing my novels and just getting it out there and almost like a bucket list. That's a really good way to describe it. I like that. I mean, my bucket list would include 50 novels, not just the one and done, but
Can I make a point? I'm kind of disappointed that your goal was just to be a full-time writer when you were like 10. That's so limiting. Mine was to be a vet and also a paleontologist and then write in the evenings. I don't know how I would have mushed those three jobs together. I also wanted to be a police dog handler as well. I assumed I could do all of those while writing and traveling, which I don't actually like anymore. But yeah, it's quite limiting that you just wanted to be an author. I mean, come on, let's be honest. There was something else in there, Starship Captain.
No, I wanted to be a secret agent. Specifically secret agent, not like a detective or anything, a secret agent. And then as I got older, I realized I do not have the stamina or the stomach for that. So that went out the window. But no, I was a teacher. That was ever since I was in first grade. I wanted to be a teacher because I really liked my first grade teacher and I wanted to be just like her. And I did that. I was a teacher for a few years and that was fun while it lasted. But teaching can kind of suck. I mean, the industry, like the whole, like the money, I mean, there's a lot of things. Teachers don't get the credit that they deserve. And I just couldn't, for my own sanity and my mental health, like I couldn't do it anymore. But that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher, but right on the side, and then eventually become a full-time author that I would probably be able to quit teaching or do teaching on the side. That was my mentality. I thought I could just write and then like occasionally go to school every day and teach, but then, and it wouldn't matter. The money wouldn't matter, but also 10-year-old me wasn't really thinking about the money. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And now I'm neither. anymore, really. I mean, I'm still technically a writer, but now I'm a pet sitter. That's more my full-time job. So, I mean, who knew? But see, that's the thing. It's not even just writing. It's everything in life. You grow up, your ideals change, your motivations change, and I never imagined myself as being a pet sitter, but here we are. Whatever your purpose for writing is, no matter whether you mix and match all those things or you just find like one little thing that you want to write, your purpose is more or less your end goal. So you kind of need to figure out what like check marks you or what tick boxes you need to like check off in order to reach that finish line. And I think in order to do that, research is key. For example, if you're aiming to be a full-time author, then you'll need to look into varying publishing methods, marketing tactics, knowing your audience, and so all that business fun stuff. But of course, that doesn't even include all the tasks you'll need to do to write the actual book. And that has nothing to do with like the creative writing process or anything. Like it's a whole spiel. And whatever steps you need to take to reach that end goal to, reach your purpose for writing is you need to calculate how long each step may take you to reach each like individual goal or checkpoint, whatever you want to call it. And then you have to manage your time well, which that's easier said than done, but that's probably a whole other podcast episode.
Didn't we do that already? Did we not do time management?
We probably did.
Okay,
Maybe we should go through our older episodes and do a couple of
we at least
you
need to
guys like
remember.
that? Let us know in the comments. And if you do want us to do that, let us know which episodes you would like us to redo.
Yeah.
We can't do all the work.
No. Oh God, no. To be fair though, I mean we're this is like 234. That's 200 plus episodes we've done. There's no way we're going to remember all the ones we've done. Yeah, I do like your type A brain with the whole calculate how long each goal. It's like it's so you. You should see the notes and the way she organizes everything for the podcast. It's incredible. I used to think I was pretty organized with things. She blows me out of the water. Though you're right, she's completely out of the water with your type A personality.
Well, I think this is why we work so well together.
Yes. But I'm going to make a point because I have done this in my life whenever I'm like, oh, I need to do X, Y, or Z task. It's going to take me an hour. And I can tell you, you are always wrong. Whatever you think, you are wrong. Whether you think it's going to take 5 minutes or 4 hours, you're wrong. It could take 20 hours. It could take 5 minutes. So time yourself. Start making timings of certain things. Like we timed ourselves for a while editing podcasts. And obviously every podcast is different sizes, but it gives you an idea of like, wow, it takes way more hours than I realized to edit one of our podcasts, things like that. And if you're going to calculate, you need to have a basic idea of how much time it will take. Now, obviously you can't time everything, but I do recommend whatever time you think it's going to take, add on more. If nothing else, it's wiggle room, That's all I say.
No, that's a really good point because about a month ago in episode 230, if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. We talked about the Gantt chart and how you can streamline your writing process and business and marketing and all that's fun stuff. And in that episode, we talked about like just for outlining, for example, if it typically takes you, I don't know, a week to outline a novel, put it on the Gantt chart for 2 weeks because you never know what's going to come up, and just give yourself that wiggle room. And that can help you not only manage your time and calculate how long it'll take you to reach said goals, but you'll also be able to just kind of, in a weird way, if you give yourself that wiggle room and then you don't need that wiggle room, you can start the next tasks sooner. And then you reach your deadlines faster and it makes you feel more productive. So it kind of tricks your brain. Or you could do the smarter thing and take a break during that wiggle room because that's probably better for your mental health. But I digress. But yeah, Ari brings up a really good point with that. And it kind of brings me into my next point about making your goals realistic. And I feel like, as writers, I do this all the time. We often create really broad goals because we all dream of publishing a bestseller. We all dream of our novel being made into a movie or a TV show. And if that's what you truly want, then that's great. I'm not saying it's impossible, but how do you get to that point? Because your book can't be a bestseller if it's not published. And it can't be published if it's not edited well and have a good cover. And you can't get a book edited and designed if it's not written. And a book can't be written if you don't put in the time and the effort and the research. So it all kind of trickles down, and there you go. You have like a step-by-step, I don't know, guide, whatever I just said. There's your little process to getting your book out into the world and being made into that movie, if that's what your end goal is. Basically, you're working backwards. You figure out your purpose, which is your end goal, and then you figure out, what do I need to do to get to that point? And you figure out what you got to do. Okay, well, what do I need to do to get to this point? And then you kind of work backwards, and through there, hopefully you can figure out like miniature goals and check marks that you need to reach in order to do what you need to do and get to where you want to be.
I think that is perfect, because you're totally right. Writers have a habit of like broad goals. It's like, write novel, market novel, publish novel. And it's like, are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how long that can take and how many steps that is? So I like to create like overarching goals or projects. So that maybe cover design would be an overarching one. And then the broken down tasks, which are the smaller pieces beneath that, would be research cover artists, narrow it down to 3, reach out to cover artists for pricing, sketch out basic design, decide on cover artist, pay cover artist. And then you have all these little steps. That way, first of all, it gives us that nice warm feeling of being able to tick lots of things off rather than just waiting for ages to be able to tick cover art done. You've got all these little ones between it. The same with editors. It's like researching editors, working which ones you want to work with, doing sample pages. Always see if you can get an editor who will do sample pages, and just break it down, because even just like getting a book cover, getting an editor, it's so many more steps. It's not like you just go that one online. You don't. You have to make sure it's someone who covers your work, someone who's got the good brand color, isn't not someone who has the branding that would work for your story and things like that. So yeah, definitely go down to small steps. Oh gosh, I wish I'd have learned that years ago. I do it now, but I really wish I'd not written bigger, broader steps and goals, because I got overwhelmed with them, and then I would just stare at them as they passed, and I didn't get them done.
No, but legit, you just described what my to-do list used to look like. I would literally write step 1, write novel, step 2, edit novel. But then, I mean, how many rounds of edits do you go through? Developmental, copy, line, proofreading. I mean, it gets overwhelming if you have those broad goals. And then when you like edit your first draft, then you're like, okay, well, I edited it. And then you check it off, but then you're like, well, wait, it's still not done. And then you kind of get yourself into like this discouraged state almost, because it's like, shouldn't this be like close to being complete? Why isn't it? I don't understand. And yeah, as Ari said, if you have like those really narrow goals, obviously the check boxes are fun to tick off for sure, because it makes you feel like more productive, which turn like motivates you more. But also this kind of makes it so that if your goals do inevitably change, like right now, you may want to be a full-time author, but then you may realize, oh, maybe that's not what I want to do. I just want to do this for fun and self-publish my books. And if people read it, great. If they don't, oh well, because that's kind of my goal now. You can look at those individual steps and kind of realize, okay, well, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. And it makes it easier for you to update those goals and, well, just kind of update your path on how to get to that like finish line pretty much. Because like one of the works that I'm currently working on is called Apparitions Anonymous, and it's a collection of short stories. And I had my checklist that I have for all of my novels, and in it includes hiring a developmental editor and the copy editor and all that fun stuff. But then I realized the short stories, while it's kind of hard to explain, but there's no underlying plot. And that probably, you might be sitting there thinking like, oh, that doesn't sound like a very good story if there's no plot. It's hard to explain. I apologize. But I don't need a developmental editor because there's no major developing. Like the whole point is it's more philosophical, I guess you could say. So I really just need a proofreader. So right away, I've gotten rid of a couple of steps and I've also saved myself some money. So now I got to add update budget and reconfigure that to my list. So yeah, overall, it's totally okay if your end goal changes. You just need to keep up with it and recognize if your goals change. Because for a long time, I was in denial about why I want to write changing because I thought I was giving up. But there's a fine line between giving up because you're too afraid to keep going or because you weren't perfect right away. But rather you're giving up what no longer serves a purpose for you and what's no longer fulfilling in your life. And it's totally okay to give something up that you realize you no longer want. I used to want to make a full-time income off of my writing, and now I've realized I don't want that anymore. If it pays for itself, then yeah, great. Who's going to say no to that? But I just want to write because I enjoy writing and I enjoy the process. And that's totally okay. Is it sad? Especially if, baby Rachel, 10-year-old Rachel really wanted to be a bestseller author and now 30-year-old Rachel is like, nah, that's stupid. We don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, it's a little sad, but I mean, that's growth and people change and you yourself change. And so does your writing because your writing voice changes over time. My 30-year-old writing voice is vastly different than my 10-year-old writing voice, and that's a good thing. Trust me. So just wanted to give everybody a little PSA about that. Like, it's totally okay if your writing goals change and yeah, just whatever is no longer serving a purpose for you. If things aren't fulfilling anymore, just reevaluate, take a step back and just like think about it. Doesn't mean you have to stop altogether, but just reevaluate what you want and what your desires are and what would actually make you happy.
I don't think that's sad. I think that's just how it is. And you seem happier with where you want to go with your writing. You don't have the stress of it. And the fact you were able to cut out things that were very expensive, like developmental edits and it's like you're still doing your writing, you're doing something different. And it's like change can be a good thing, It means you can broaden your horizons with something different. So yeah, no, I think that was great. And I think all of that was perfect. So I have nothing else to add. Everything Rachel said, I concur with.
Thank you, because I felt like I felt like that sounded a bit corny, but it's true. And yeah, change is a good thing because if we didn't have change, then everything would always be the same and it would be boring. And I think a lot of people are afraid of change, not even just with writing, just with life in general. If something changes, it throws people off. My routine changes and I get thrown off. Like, I think that's just part of human nature. But the more we accept change, then the easier it gets. And I'm not going to get all philosophical on you guys and sound corny again. So I'm just going to wrap things up and end it. Because overall, figuring out your purpose for writing and how you can make that a reality for yourself is good. And it's okay if your purpose changes over time, as we said, because you change and your craft improves, and that's a good thing. But finally, don't forget to make those goals realistic for yourself. Again, not saying your book turning into a movie is impossible. It very well can happen. But in order to get there, you need to create like practical steps for yourself so that you can inevitably cross that finish line. So with all of that said, hopefully you guys got something out of this. We're going to turn it over to you guys. Have your writing goals ever changed? And if so, how and what did you do about it? Let us know your answers in the comments so we can chat. And remember, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Next week, we're discussing influencers and marketing. So to ensure you don't miss it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thank you for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Felt Tip Pens. We love to color code. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.